Can we give Chief Joseph Fox a big round of applause? And we're going to learn. We're going to be inspired. And thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you for this energy. Oh my gosh, I need it today, and I think I'm almost to my full. Just being in this room, this is really wonderful. And to your opening words about NYPD and law enforcement, 36 years with the NYPD, and people have been saying, "Stay safe, neighbors, friends, stay safe, stay safe." And I never really, especially because I've been a chief for 20, I never got that they mean me and they mean NYPD and they mean people who serve others. So I would just say, yeah, thanks. And it's only in the last 7 months. And I teach this to my rookie cops now. When someone says stay safe, it's not a cliche. They're saying thank you. They're saying I respect you. They're saying I appreciate you. So I want these young cops to be 36 years ahead of me and know that when people say it, and that's what I felt right now with that introduction, Ramon. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you. And I want to kind of do a backward little ease us into my few minutes with you. 2 days, I don't know if you got the email yet, but I sent a poem that I wrote 2 days after Hurricane Sandy, 5 years ago, 2 days ago. And our whole mission shifted, and I was in the Rockaways from 7 in the morning and other affected areas till 11 at night. And this second night, I got out of my truck on Avenue R when I lived in Marine Park, and I looked up, and I saw in the northwestern sky a beautiful crescent moon. And right next to it was the planet Jupiter. And I watched these things. And I just stood there, and I was overwhelmed with the beauty of it, the perfection of it. And I was overwhelmed with all the pain that was around me, that all the pain I was seeing all day out there, and I would for months. And fast forward, I actually just wrote into my phone on AMUR, and I wound up turning it into a poem. And that I sent to Ramon, and hopefully he'll send to you because of the timeliness of today. I now live in Rockaways on the boardwalk, and I came home last night about 8, 9 o'clock at night after being on the west side of Manhattan at that horrible event, a tragedy, a manifestation of evil. And I went onto my terrace, and I looked, and I saw this beautiful ocean. And I'm watching, the moon was right up and above, and it was like there was a giant flashlight lighting up the ocean. And I was struck by this beauty and yet this pain. And I was thinking of those 8 families and the horror of all those people that moment. And I actually sat down and went to my phone and read Perfect Order again. And I guess what I've learned in my 36 years is that my career in law enforcement has had highs and great moments and pride and significance, but it's been laced with pain. And yesterday was one of those days. And I'll never ever think back on my years without recognizing both. In the song Across the Universe, John Lennon writes, "Pools of sorrow, waves of joy, possessing and caressing me across the universe." And I hang on to that concept. And I suggest that we all experience pools of sorrow, waves of joy. You said I think you said in the bio that I may make them cry. I'm just trying to get up to that point. So this is what I told a bunch of officers today. Just think about that when we're going through hard times. Somehow, we always get through them. Isn't it amazing? Is it God? Is it love? Is it faith? Is it humanity? I don't know. But think about it. Somehow we get through tough times. And remember that when we're going through tough times. And I guess that's my homage to the poor people who were killed yesterday and what's happened in our city and our country. Now, I have been so fortunate to have a job that I took a test for, and it required no skills, and it required no expertise, and it didn't require even education back then. And I got to do what I do and to experience what I've experienced. And every single day, multiple times in a day, I am saying, who is this? How did this happen to me? But I have such admiration for you because I took a test. My father, I didn't even fill out the application. My father did. He says, you're going to Franklin K. Lane High School. Sometime, I think it was June of 1979. Okay, Dad, can I borrow your car? And I got here. So for people to begin on their own and to start up businesses, I marvel. And that's one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here. And remember that when you're experiencing tough times. Remember John Lennon. Remember the pools of sorrow and the waves of joy. So what I wanted to speak about for a few minutes today is something that I developed years ago, and I call it my core principles. I think we title it core principles, just core principles. I used to call it the core agenda, but then I think people think I'm Sean T, the guy from Maximum, Insanity. You know, we're gonna do abs. Okay, we're gonna do abs for 20 minutes. It's a different type of workout. So the first thing, that's the West Side Highway, by the way. That's a sanitation facility. I love taking photos. I love taking photos because when I take photos, I get to see beauty, but I know by taking them, I get to share beauty. I get to send them to people. So transitional anxiety. So this what I'm going through now is what I give new cops, new sergeants, COs, anybody I speak with, because it's core. It's what I believe. And I hope it's okay for me to just share these things, because I think they transcend and they translate to all of life. They do for me. So back to, I'm so excited, I'm flipping slides. Transitional anxiety. So I begin by telling people that when you go through transitions, when we go through any type of transition, there's this anxiety. Palms are sweaty, mom's spaghetti on my sweater already. And it's, I love Eminem. And it's normal. And it's normal. It's normal. And it comes from humility. And isn't that a good characteristic? Isn't that good to have in business and in life? So when you find yourself going through transitions and you're feeling this, it's just you saying, can I be the best I can? Can I exceed even my own expectations? So that I just throw out there at the beginning of every presentation. I will go through transitional anxiety when I eventually retire, any change in life. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's not a bad thing. So this is from Bay Ridge into Staten Island, which is the beginning of, anybody do the Jersey Shore for vacation? Yeah? So the whole trip, if you're coming from Brooklyn or the New York area, is the Garden State Parkway. So I came up with this because, you know, the rentals are from Saturday to Saturday. So it's an hour and 45-minute ride. But on that day, because the whole world is going down on a Saturday and the whole world is coming up next week because the rentals are that way, it could be 4 hours. So it's quite a ride. So what'll happen is my 23-year-old daughter, Liz, will call me and say, Dad, where are you? And I'll say, I just went over to Verrazano, or I just hit the Garden State. And she'll say, I'm about 45 minutes ahead of you. Stay out of the express lane. It's really bad. Take the local. Now, do I say, hey, Liz, wait a minute. You're my daughter. You're telling me what to do? I'm the one. I do PowerPoint presentations, Liz. People actually pretend to be listening. And you're telling me what to do? Or do I stop and say, my daughter Liz, whatever her experiences in life, is in a place, this particular time, that I'm not, and be open to what she gives me? And that's the secret of life, and it's the secret of success. And you will look back at times when you had transitional anxiety, if I can give you homework, and every time you had it, every time you experienced transition, there was somebody, at least one person, that was as if they were put there just for you. Be open to those people, because they are put there just for you. So now, the better part about life, or just as good, is I get to now call my 28-year-old son, Joe. Say, I know you worked late last night. You're probably not even out of the house yet. Let me tell you what Liz shared with me, and let me tell you what I've experienced. That's cool. Isn't that what we do? I mean, we were born to teach. We were born to give. And it's something that we have. And never miss the opportunity. Never miss the opportunity. Because when we learn, we teach. And you want to be a great leader? Teach. Just lead. Mentor. Practice. It's not a spot you get to. It's a daily thing. It's a daily practice of caring for others. So this is if I listen to my daughter, right? I take her advice, and here's if I don't. So this is my choice in life. Take advice from others or don't. I choose to take advice. So that's actually Plum Beach off the Bell Parkway, and that's Kingsborough Community College. And talk about people being there just when you need them. I had no idea that gull was in the photo until I went on the computer to select which ones I was going to send out. So teaching, retention levels. We retain our highest retention levels are what we teach to others. So when we teach what we're excited about, when we teach what we believe in, when we teach what we care about, those values and those practices are stronger within us. This is why I'm excited about talking about this core, what do we call it? Core principles. I just changed the name from core agenda. I was going to start doing abs again. Ay, ay, ay. So we retain 95% of what we teach to others. So if I go to one police example, right? So a cop, they're taught in the academy that when they're engaging someone that may be a confrontation, you don't know, and almost anything could be, that they're supposed to kind of blade themselves. So if you ever have a cop talking to you and she's going like this, doesn't mean she's going to arrest you. It means that it's such a habit, or it should be. Now, why do we do this? So because if the thing becomes violent, the exchange becomes violent, you're kind of in a better position. You're not going to get knocked over like this, like if you're flat foot. If you're right-handed, your gun is back here, so nobody can grab your firearm. You're a smaller target, on and on and on and on. So what happens is, I talk about this example. I talk about how when a sergeant sees a cop and he's standing like this, and they pulls him to the side and says, hey, remember what you taught in the academy? This is why. Well, that sergeant's gonna be safer. That sergeant's gonna remember that. So not only the sergeant, but the chief, because I talk about this so much, if I go downstairs and someone says, excuse me, can you tell me how to get to Times Square? I'm gonna say, sure, and I'm gonna turn all sideways like this. So the idea is teach, and this is why I'm excited to teach, because it reinforces these. So constantly, we tend to think that, they got it. They don't got it. The people that work with us, they don't always have our vision. They don't always have the skills that we think we gave them once. So, and one more thing on that. When you find yourself saying, as a parent, in a relationship, as a boss, some people just don't get it. Just think for a minute, because we never say that and really mean it. We say that as criticism. Just think for a minute, maybe they don't get it. Maybe they really don't get it. Maybe we need to take extra time to explain it to them. Which brings us to, that was a tough day. There was a windstorm, and I was wearing sweatpants. And there was sand. I was taking sand out of my body for like 2 days. Over clothing. It was really brutal, but I wanted to get that shot. Keep the cookies on the shelf where they can be reached. So, okay, so we have to know the level of understanding of people that we're mentoring and we're teaching. And what happens is, in our life, we got this growth that's just going, and we're picking up more, and we're learning more, and we're learning more. And then we find ourselves talking to people around us. You got it? Yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I say that way too many times. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean means I'm too tired to explain what I mean. So I'm saying, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like almost like I'm just putting it in your brain and you're supposed to have it. So we have to remember that. So, back on teaching. So all of these photos are mine. My daughter Liz, anybody have teenagers yet? So you know what terrible teens, right? Terrible twos, and my kids are wonderful. But listen, mom and dad are safe. So that's why they kind of challenge us a little bit. But when she was in that stage, she would say things to me, Dad, your pictures are stupid. Nobody wants to see them. How's that? I mean, isn't that typical teen stuff? Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to see them. They're all the same. There's sunsets and sunrises. So she goes to Ireland 2 years ago. Look what she does. This is the only photo that's not mine. So she never once said, Dad, thank you for what you've taught me about rule of thirds and photography and this and that and arranging. And as Ansel Adams said, you don't take a picture, you make a picture. And thank you, Dad, never. Still hasn't. Brian, you know Liz. He's family friend. And if you see her, please tell her a little thank you now and then will be good. But that's why that inhibits us from teaching. Because we don't get the amens and the hallelujahs and the thank yous. So we have to teach and pretend that we're seeing hallelujahs and amens and standing ovations. Amen. Thank you, Ramon. So, informal, intermittent evaluations. So, a decent boss on Thanksgiving, right before the holiday, says goodbye on a Wednesday before we all go home. Hey, have a nice holiday. Have a nice Thanksgiving. Thank you for what you do. Right? A decent boss will do that because there's a thank you in the holiday. So I have to say thank you. A decent boss at the end of the year. Hey, have a great New Year's. Thanks for a great year. And a decent boss at evaluation time, and for us that's February, will say, hey, you're doing a great job. Here's this evaluation. Sign it. When I hear compliments like that, they don't mean much to me because I know if it's not Thanksgiving, I'm not getting that compliment. We had a years ago, executive staff down in headquarters would call us down. We were on this routine then where every December we'd have a class of 1,000 cops graduating, and they wanted to meet on how to deploy them. So it was always Christmas week because the graduation was right around Christmas, and it was usually a time when you wanted to be off, especially when I had little ones. And the commissioner would begin the meeting and say, "Hey, thanks," and give this really heartfelt thanks, but I never heard it. Because I know if there's no graduation, if there's no meeting in his office, I'm not getting a thank you. 36 years, and I just saw Commissioner Bratton yesterday. I said, I'm going to be talking about you tomorrow. 36 years, and this has never happened to me. Somebody coming over to me in June and saying, you're doing a good job. Let me tell you what a good job you're doing. Let me tell you, like Ramon just did with Liz. I don't know if you knew you did it, but he just said she's the best special events planner anywhere. So I ran over to her. Said, I got some informal, intimate, how you doing? 36 years, it hasn't happened. And Commissioner Bratton, I think Brian was in the call with me. I see William Bratton, and I pick up. He's a relatively new commissioner. Just started telling me what a good job I'm doing. He hung up, and I turned to Brian. I says, pinch me, pinch me. So the idea is, and if this makes sense to anyone, it'll just be something that makes sense and feels good now, and we'll probably forget about later. This is one that you have to practice. Now, if you just worked with your company like a month, that's probably not the time to go around telling everybody how great they are. But I do this. Remember this, the tactics, like 95%? I do this a lot. I did it with Liz, from what Ramon said, because I teach it. So this is something that you want to practice. And it's going over to somebody. Now, don't do it after they do a good job on a project. See, by the way, you're doing a good job, because it's attached to the project. They'll be happy, it'll be nice, but if you do it separate, now here's a reason why people don't do this much. Because if they try it once, all they get is a blank stare. Because they walk over to the person and says, hey, you're really doing good, you've been with the company for 6 months or 6 years, and the person just, and you walk away and you say, what is Chief Fox talking about? That was ridiculous, they're just staring at me. You know why they're staring at you? They're shocked. They're waiting for you to tell them what you want them to do. They figure you'll kindly just tell them how wonderful they are, and then you're going to say, oh, and I need this on this project. So they don't realize what you just did until 10 minutes later. So this is one, if you like it, it's got to be practiced, or we'll forget it. I love those little guys. You ever see them? I'm not sure what they call them. It's like the old Monty Python, Sandpipers. There's an old Monty Python movie, Life of Brian or something, and there's one point where they run away, charge, attack, and they're all running back and forth. That's what they do. The wave comes in, one of them yells, run away, and they all run back up. Then when the wave goes down, they all run back down. They're constantly moving, like us, constantly moving. Okay, perfect example of keeping the cookies on the shelf where they could be reached. For 20 years, has anybody here heard the fable, I guess, the goose that lays the golden eggs? Yeah, by a show of hands? Okay, that's a lot. Most groups I speak with, I've been only asking this question before this item, and most hands don't go up. Most people don't know this. And what this is, for those who don't, and a lot of times people say, I have something about a goose and an egg. The farmer is down on his luck and finances, and he winds up with this goose that's laying solid gold eggs. So 1 egg, 2 eggs, and he says, this is really great. He opens up the goose, cuts the goose open, because he wants all the eggs. And there's no eggs. There's just a dead goose. Because the goose didn't have golden eggs. The goose produces golden eggs. And he killed the goose's production capability. That was in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Covey uses that as an example. So the idea is, if Brian were to interrupt me right now because he sees a call from something really big going on, and I say, not now, like that, is Brian ever going to interrupt me again? Never. I killed his production capability. He showed initiative to share that. So what does this mean? When people come to us with ideas, if there's any merit to it, and you may have even had the idea, please give that person full credit. Please act really excited that they're coming to you with the idea. If it's a bad idea, but their heart is in it, act really excited and try to figure out how to explain it. It may not. Tell them you're going to try it, and then a week later get back to them and tell them why. Don't say it right away. Keep it coming. That person will be giving you ideas if you do it right, if you handle this right, if you massage the production capability for the rest of her life, for the rest of his life. And he may never give you a good idea, but he's always engaged and he's always trying to help you. We are the benefactors of building up production capability. With me, it's constantly on my mind. Why? Because I teach it, because I talk about it. And one example, until a few years ago, there's always a birthday cake in the staff. There's a staff of about 60 people in the transit bureau. And what happens when they do the birthday cake, they sing, and who gets the first piece of cake? The birthday person. Who gets the second piece? The highest ranking person in the room. I don't eat cake. So for years, they come over to me, "Here, Chief." I go, "Oh, no, thanks, I don't eat cake. I don't eat cake." And that seems like nothing, right? That seems normal. But I took this to that. And I said, wait a minute, that person's showing respect, they're showing kindness, they're showing love. This is somebody in the outer area that's not in my office with me every day. Take the cake. Take the cake and be happy about it. So now, and I hope none of you ever offer me cake, because you'll see me do this, and you'll say, I know he's not going to eat that cake. When somebody offers me the cake, I say, thank you, cake, and a big piece too, thank you. And I walk away looking at it, marveling over this cake, and I get in my office and I give somebody cake. That's to the extent I take this production capability. Options. Oh, options, okay. So when we've taken tests, don't we love multiple choice questions? Does anybody want to take a test with all fill in the blanks? You got to come up with the answer. Why not? Why do we like options? Because options we get to choose, we get to discern, we get to evaluate, we get to consider. Usually at least 4 different options. Why don't we make all decisions in life that way? Let's try. Let's try to, every single decision we make, see it as a multiple choice question. When you find yourself coming up with one thing and running with it, please stop. Say, wait a minute, multiple choice, multiple choice, multiple choice. What did he say, that guy? Something about a goose, golden eggs, multiple choice? I don't remember. But there's something about not running with this decision right now. Because when you consider options, you'll almost always come up with a better response. And when do we not consider options? Even people who teach it. When we're stressed, when we're angry, when we're upset. That's when we just jump and move. Recognize that. There's indicators, there's physical indicators when we're upset. We all know what they are for us. Practice that. Practice recognizing when we're angry. And when we're angry, typical language is, and any of you have been yelled at before by a boss? Yep. The language is like this. I shouldn't have to ask for this 3 times. My directives aren't being taken seriously. My boss will be furious when she sees that. You know what that is? Vulnerability, rejection. Our greatest fear in life, we were born to connect. And when we're rejected, it's hurtful and it's frightening. And now how do I get rejection out of that? He's going to get yelled at by his boss, right? His directives aren't being taken seriously, he thinks. He's asking for things 3 times. So if anybody's ever yelled at you, sounds like it's happened recently, call them up, tell them you need to meet them, even if it's been 10 years, you don't work with them anymore, they're not in your life. Take a plane to go see them and say that Chief Joe Fox said I should give you a hug. Because when you spoke to me that way, you were feeling so vulnerable and so upset. And seriously, recognize that in us. Recognize when we find ourselves relationships, if I may, without a doctorate degree in psychology. Relationships. Pick an argument that you've had with a loved one. Just in the last month, if you've had one in a month. Go back to it. And you will find at some level you were feeling rejection. They didn't listen to you, they didn't respect you, they didn't hear you, they didn't understand you. That's all that is. It's my granddaughter Leah. She's going to be 2 years old in November 3rd. That's in my apartment, and that's that ocean I was looking at last night. So what brings me towards the end of my agenda is balance in life, personal and professional responsibility. The idea of never losing sight of who we are. The idea of never losing sight of taking care of ourselves. And I'm looking at a number of very young people. And some of you may already be working 12 hours a day. And, we get on that treadmill, and then we forget us, and we lose us on the way. I've seen 63-year-old, because that's when you have to retire in the NYPD, chiefs retire, and they stand up there at the podium, some big banquet, and they say, and to my wife, and to my kids, and my grandkids, I missed a lot, but you were always patient, and people clap, and I cry. Because I say, that's a life missed. That's a life missed. When I retire, which is probably going to be a few years from now, come to my party, please. Because in my speech, I am going to say that no one is happier to have done what I've done for these years. No one is happier than me. But I'm fine retiring. Because we are not our titles. It's who we are and who we bring to our titles. And when we think that we are our titles, we are lost. And that applies to relationships. I got this little diagram I do about parenting, couples. I do this thing. I have the man, the woman, and then I have these lines going back and forth. There's no children. It's all us. What are we going to do together? Then the child comes down here, and the lines all go down to the child. And then they stop intersecting. And what happens is this wall of emotional atrophy builds up here in between them. And the child goes off little by little, more independent. And you have two people on the other side of that wall saying, where are you? I can't see you. I knew you were there once. Who are you? So that's how balance works for me. It works in everything. Parenting. Get the babysitters. Get the babysitters. Give yourself some time, whatever it is we like to do. And it's not always taking trips to Aruba. It's finding 5 minutes for yourself. It's finding 5 minutes for yourself. In 2015, Detective Brian Moore was killed in the line of duty. He was shot and he died 3 days later in Queens in a 105 precinct. I got the phone call that he was pronounced. I was running a meeting in my office. I wrapped up the meeting. I said, I'm going to go walk around now. I want to tell people. I want to be able to tell my staff this horrible news. I want to be able to deliver it. And I was about to walk out the door behind the last guy walking out of the meeting, and something clicked. This stuff clicked without me even realizing it. I closed the door and walked back in and said, let me take care of me first. And I sat there and I cried for 15 minutes. I looked at a picture of my son who was in the academy. I looked at pictures of other people who died in the line of duty. I thought of him and his family. I said, okay, I'm okay. And I was better prepared to deliver that message to people because I took care of me. And I want to end with, by a show of hands, how many people here think I'm a happy person? Yeah, thank you. You want the secret? It's easy. It's so easy. I am ever mindful of the purposefulness of the purposeful moments in my purposeful life. It's that easy. Now, what does that mean? Ever mindful of the purposefulness. I'm not telling anyone that how to live a purposeful life. You are. That's why you're here. We were born to live purposeful lives. But me, I give myself credit for the purposeful moments I'm in. I think about them as they're happening. Like today, there was a cleaner in headquarters, and I walked by, and everybody's going to a busy meeting. I said, hey, thank you for making this place look so nice. Yeah. And she turns and says, thank you. No one says thank you for that. I says, everyone appreciates you. It's just that I have a little more time on my hands today. And I stopped and took a photo with her. And I already thinking about how when I put it on Twitter, it's going to communicate that everybody matters. And I was real excited about it while I was doing it. When I call my daughter now, I actually think of who she is every time I speak with her and my son. I actually think of their accomplishments. They don't have to be big things. Right now, do you know how excited I am? Because I'm aware that maybe one thing I said is appreciated or even impacts one person in this room. I'll take that one thing, one person, and I've lived this hour that was really worth living. And it's really fun, and it's exhausting. Because when you're aware of the purposefulness of your moments, you want more, you want more, you want more, and you're just going and going and going. So thank you for giving me a very purposeful moment, a very purposeful day. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Anybody who hasn't asked a question?
I promise the answers won't be 25 minutes.
We're going to make 4 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll start here and go down.
Sir.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
Wow.
I appreciate all law enforcement, my family's law enforcement. I am grateful for everything you do.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. It gets even better.
Hi, I just want to thank you. My husband's a sergeant at NYPD, so I appreciate what you said and what you do and what you represent. And I just have a question on, like, how do you keep people's morale up when faced with a lot of negative opinions and just kind of a lot of, negativity?
How do we keep morale? I work at it constantly. I work at it constantly. Even when I'm in the funerals of line of duty deaths, I walk over and I'll have huddles with the cops that worked with this officer. And I'll say things like, you feel real small right now. You feel helpless. You feel like what you're doing doesn't matter. Well, let me tell you what the family, I say this at the hospital when the officer's pronounced. Let me tell you what the family's going to tell me when I get to them in my uniform with all the stars on it. They're going to say the 105 precinct's amazing. They've been amazing. You have no idea. I just find every single opportunity to do that, as does the police commissioner. It's constant. It's like marketing. It's like marketing. You don't do it 1 week and then, okay, my business will grow. It's constant. Thank you for the question. Please give your husband my best.
Absolutely.
I think it's all on everyone's minds is how does the NYPD and yourself handle such tragic situations like yesterday? Because I'm still heartbroken by it.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I went to the scene. There was absolutely nothing for me to contribute, but I killed myself to get there because I was, up in Manhattan and the traffic was a mess. But just standing in that part of our world, it just brought me closer to it. And it's funny you mention that, because I was just sharing with somebody, 36 years, it's only about 6 months ago that I'm starting to have a hard time reading emails about groping in the subway, about a crime, about a shooting. I'm having a hard time looking at those videos that Bob Boyce, the chief of detectives, shows at every meeting in the police commission. I'm having a hard time. A friend of mine says, that's great, you're in touch with yourself. What took you so long? It's tough, but the bigger picture is, I knew that standing there yesterday, I was part of something even greater than that manifestation of evil. I was part of justice. I was part of what's right, and that's what motivates us. Thank you for the caring question. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And our last question, right here.
I was just curious who took the picture of you and your granddaughter.
Oh, my daughter Liz.
Hey!
That's the best. Oh, I might have tell her this. And one more thing on that question. I had a conversation with someone who said she was so down. She's a deputy commissioner, and she said, I'm actually thinking of leaving New York. I don't know what's happening in this world, what's happening in our city. And I came up with a theory right then that the anger and the hatred and the manifestations of evil, I think, is predominantly unchanged, just like the atoms and the molecules in science. I think it's all about never letting the light, lose to darkness. And that's it, and that's why we're here. We're that balance. And when I say we, I don't mean NYPD, I mean the good. Thank you.
Can we give one more round of applause to Chief Joseph Fox? Thank you.